guests today are Tim Blunt, the Director of Technology and Strategic Programs for AT&T Public Sector, and Lance Spencer, a Client Executive Vice President, also for AT&T Public Sector. Tim, Lance, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason.
One of the things that the Air Force has said in the past is they wanted something that was different, not the same old, same old. They didn't just want to tell the vendor community, give us this much bandwidth, this much, this number of computers, this much power on the network. They wanted you as AT&T or the vendor community to tell the Air Force what they needed and then make it happen.
Yeah, Jason, it is a very novel and innovative approach. One of the things I think is interesting, and as we talk with the Air Force, I think terminology and what they're looking to accomplish matters. And I think that what's key is they're actually coming to service providers predominantly versus a classic defense industrial base kind of solution to really bring what a service provider brings and what they excel in. The current risk reduction effort, the Air Force chose to break it up into separate silos and lines of effort with network as a service, compute and store, and end user services. A lot of the rationale behind that is so that the Air Force can pick the best breed within those delivery capability sets and understand how those capabilities can be delivered to the Air Force. Now, ideally, a solution like this really should be delivered as well as how the Air Force actually operates, which is based off of seamless access to data, screen to screen, sensor to sensor, workflow to workflow, and bringing them across those silos. Because even with the individual lines of action, there are seams, intended or unintended. In this particular model, we're experiencing some of that, but the real intention of the risk reduction effort was to examine those individual streams and find out how they could come together.
One of the main differences when you look at EIT as a service and the way the Air Force have done things in the past is that the Air Force had some very specific things they want to take a look at. One was commercialization. So when we say give them something different, it's different for the Air Force, but it's not different for other consumer users, right? So the Air Force is looking at the same things you guys are doing for your Fortune 500 customers and other clients that consume your services. We want to consume them the same way. What's different is how we integrate those services into the Air Force. So that's one thing certainly different about the ITaaS and this risk reduction experiment. One of the more important things I've seen that's different about this approach is the collaboration between private industry and the Air Force. With the risk reduction effort and experiment, the way they're doing it is totally collaborative between what the Air Force wants because their statement of objectives are fairly broad. So we work as a team to really define and work out how those services are going to be delivered. So it's been very exciting watching how this EIT as a service thing has spun off, and it really is a different approach for the Air Force, and I think the Air Force is all in, and there's several industry partners or private sector partners like ourselves that are all in as well, because it is the right thing to do for the nation. If you use the traditional contracting method, where they give you very specific requirements and we answer how we're going to define or how we're going to build to those requirements. So the way you would ask for it would be in a legacy method, right? So it would tie the private sector's hand on how they have to respond to you. With the OTA approach, where it's just a very simple statement of objectives, here's what we're trying to achieve, it allows for a lot more creativity on how we respond and how we talk about providing those services. And it also really opens the door for innovation. Because in the old legacy or traditional, I guess is the right word, traditional contracting method, I mean, it really is pretty specific, and they're looking at very specific criteria and how they're going to measure you and how you're going to track things. Whereas in this model, it's about two things. One is there an enhanced experience, and two is operational effectiveness. How does this affect our mission? How does this impact or increase our mission effectiveness?